Hey, sports card fans, it's John Wade Boggs fan. Hope you're all doing well. It's not easy being a Mets fan. I've been a Mets fan since, I believe, 1983, and other than winning it all in 1986, it's been a series of disappointing seasons. Now, they did make the World Series in 2000, losing to the Yankees in the Subway Series 4-1. And then they did make it to the World Series again in 2015, but again lost 4-1 to the Kansas City Royals. So even when they've made the World Series, they haven't been able to pull through and win it all other than 1986. Well, this year it's fun again to be a Mets fan. It didn't start off that way. The first couple months of the season, I thought, here we go again, another disappointing season for the Mets. Normally, in rooting for the Mets, knowing that they're not going to make the playoffs, I consider it a successful season if they have a better record than the Phillies. But this year, I think over the last 100 games of the season, the Mets actually had the best record in baseball. So they're playing good fundamental baseball, and you can't doubt the magical postseason that they've had so far. They eked into the playoffs, having to win at least one of the two games down in Atlanta. Then they went to Milwaukee, beat a very talented and good Milwaukee Brewers team. Then they beat the Phillies in the National League Division Series, and now they're in the National League Championship Series against the Dodgers. I'm not going to make any predictions. I don't want to jinx anything. I'm just enjoying the ride so far. The fact that they knocked the Phillies out of the playoffs, I'm happy if their season ends in this series against the Dodgers. I would consider it personally a good season for the Mets, something that, again, at the start of the year, I didn't think they would be at this point. Obviously, I hope they beat the Dodgers. The Dodgers are a great team. It is going to be just a nail biter throughout the 7-game series. We'll see how long it goes. A lot of people, I'm not going to do any predictions. I'm not going to jinx anything. In fact, I've watched very few games on TV, maybe catch a couple innings here and there. But I find that when I actually watch them on TV, they don't do so well. And when I just follow on my phone or periodically check in, they seem to do good. So I'm going to keep with that pattern and not jinx anything. And I'll probably just casually check in on my phone on the game, maybe check some innings if they're ahead late in the game. Maybe I'll watch the end of the game, things like that. I'm very superstitious when it comes to watching sports. But in addition to the Mets, I'm a big Penn State fan, and they had a huge overtime win at USC yesterday to remain undefeated. They're 6-0. They were ranked number 4 in the country, which had me worried. Whenever Penn State gets ranked that high, and it doesn't happen that often, they tend to either underperform or think they'll have an easy game. Well, they didn't have an easy game against USC, but they were able to, in overtime, eke out a win to remain undefeated. We'll see where they will be ranked at the next rankings, probably either today or tomorrow, with Ohio State losing to Oregon. Ohio State was ranked number 2, so Penn State may move up to number 3. We'll see. Of course, they have the big game against Ohio State, but it's at Penn State later this year. Penn State's always had a hard time beating the Ohio State and Michigan, the top-ranked teams. Whenever they seem to play a top-ranked team, they just can't come through with the big win that they need. Hopefully this year will be different, but we'll see. But then again, with my joy of the Mets and Penn State so far, I'm also a Dallas Cowboys fan. And this year is just, again, turning into another, I feel, disappointing season. They're 3-2. They've lacked consistency. Sometimes their defense is great. Other games, they're terrible. Some games, Dak Prescott looks like a top-tier quarterback. Other games, he looks like a third stringer. I just don't get it. They have talent on the team. They just can't put it together. So I'm not expecting much for the Cowboys this year. We'll see if they can turn things around. Who knows? But I may not get a full sweep of my three major sports this year in terms of having successful seasons. But so far, the Mets and the Penn State Nittany Lions are making me proud and happy to be a fan. So we'll see how everything plays out. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the reaction to my rant video from yesterday. I don't normally do videos on Saturdays, and honestly, I just put that video out there to get my minor frustration out, vent a little bit. I honestly did not anticipate the reaction that I would get to that video. I think the number of comments that I've received so far on that video is probably one of the top videos, or the most comments that I've received on a video. I think it's also the video that has been disliked the most out of every video that I've done on YouTube. So definitely it has spurred a reaction out there. I did not anticipate it. It looks like, based on the comments, there are a lot of people that have been in my situation. Now, maybe not commiserate as much as me, but they've had certain experiences. But all in all, they've been positive comments. Thank you for everyone who has commented on the video. And there have been some, I don't want to say negative comments, but ones maybe saying that I'm being too picky or being, too cheap in the cards that I'm trying to get for my set here. That maybe if I bought more expensive ones, the shipping would be better, and different things like that. But I appreciate all the comments, both positive and negative, and I'm going to do my best to reply to every comment. I still have a long ways to go. Again, there are a ton of them, but I really do appreciate all the interest and generally positive comments to what I'm going through trying to put this 1978 set together. There are even a couple people who have replied and said that they may have some 78 cards that would fit my parameters and are willing to help me out. I really appreciate it. But other than that Reggie Jackson card that spurred the whole video, which I'm still working with the seller, I'm waiting to hear back from him to see if he has that actual copy from his listing. If not, I may have to go out and get another one of that one. But I have, of the 13 that I needed when I first started this thing about a week or so ago, I have bought 10 of the 13. So the 3 that I would still be missing, I'm missing the Rod Carew. That card must have been on one of probably the left edge of the printing sheet, because every copy I see is way off center, left to right. It's been hard for me to find a decently centered Rod Carew card, and then of course I'm missing the Eddie Murray and the Molitor Trammell rookie card. Now, I know for those copies, I am going to have to spend a decent amount of money to get a really nice looking card. So I'm prepared to, go on to eBay or maybe ComC or somewhere else to find a really nice copy. And I know I'm going to have to spend a decent amount of money to get 2 nice cards there. But I do appreciate the effort. Now, what I thought I would do here is, since I complained about 2 of the 6 cards that I had received of the 10 that I recently purchased, I thought I would show the other 4 that I found acceptable. Now, you'll see that these aren't, perfectly 50-50 centered cards. If I send them in for grading, they're not going to get 9s. I'm not being that picky. I'm also not being super cheap. I know there are a couple comments that saying, well, what you're trying to do is find a great looking card on the cheap. And that's not really the case, but in full transparency, if you do a search for some of these cards that I've picked up here, yeah, there are copies that may be better centered, have nicer, sharper corners, but some of the sellers want $20, $30, $40, $50 for an ungraded copy. I don't have an unlimited budget, and the 78 set isn't that high on my priority list that I'm willing to spend a ton of money to get super perfect cards. I want a nice overall looking set. So I think you'll see with the 4 examples I'm going to show off here that, I'm not being super picky, but in my mind, these 4 here meet my general criteria. I'm happy with them, and that's what I'm looking for. So let's turn the camera around and I'll show the 4 acceptable 78 cards that I recently picked up for my set. All right, the first one that I picked up is the Nolan Ryan record breaker. As you can see here, this one is nicely centered. The corners aren't perfect. Again, I'm not looking for like super perfect cards. This bottom corner here has, some issues, a little bit of rounding, things like that, but it's clear of ink marks. All right. I saw a lot of these cards where there seems to be a little black dot in between 2 of those stars, and I passed on those cards. So in some sense, I am being somewhat picky, but mainly it's centering how crisp the card is, and yet to some extent the corners. Here's the back of the card. Again, it's not perfect, but this is the type of eye appeal that I'm looking for my set. So I was very happy with this one here. This one cost me, I need to look it up, I don't know, maybe $8 with shipping and tax, things like that. So I knew with the Nolan Ryan that one would cost me a little bit more. Here's another one that I needed, the Fred Lynn. All right, it's not perfectly centered. It's a little off left to right, but generally sharp corners. Now, this one, if you look really closely, there's a little bit of black ink mark. It's not that noticeable to me. A lot of the cards that I saw for Fred Lynn were, again, way off center or had some, ink marks across his face. So those I passed on. But, this one, again, if I send it into grading, it's not going to get a 9. I'm not looking for 9s here. The back is nice. I mean, again, it's generally well-centered, nice and clean. So very happy with the Fred Lynn. The next one is the Reds team card. Now, these team cards are often really hard to find centered, and this one is a really nice example. And again, very little print dots. You see there is one there in the R for the Reds. That is very common for some reason on most of the cards that I see. And then on the back sometimes on these team cards are also really hard to find, well-centered. So this one just, this was perfect. Really liked this copy here. Very happy. Now I'm going to be doing a separate video showing these pickups and some of the others once I get them in the mail of the 10 that I need. But I thought in context, I probably should have shown these 4 here in my rant video to show the difference between the 2 that I had issues with. And the last one here is the Dave Winfield. Now, this one has been hard to find for me. Again, the corners aren't perfect. There's a little ding down there, a little off center left to right, but generally speaking, a nice clean copy. And I saw a lot of copies where maybe because of the how much black there is in his uniform, and up here it's a really dark card. I saw a lot of copies where across San Diego there was, black smudges. And up near his face and the bat, you can sort of see this one has some. But generally speaking, it's a solid. The registration is nice, not, very little ink blotches. And here is the back. Again, not perfect, but nice and solid and clean. So again, this is the quality that I'm looking at. So for those that are, maybe saying in the comments that I'm, being super picky, I am being picky. Yes, I am. But I'm not looking for a perfect card. If I was looking for a perfect card, the ones that are out there that may, grade an 8 or a 9 if I were to submit them, people are asking, like I said, $20, $30, $40 a copy. I don't have that amount of funds all through the 792 card set. So I've, compromised in some cases, maybe not 50-50 centering, but I want an overall nice eye appeal set. And if a particular card, if it meets my eye appeal test, which this one does, and it's far from perfect, then it's worthy to go into my set. So again, I appreciate all the comments of that rant video. Again, honestly, I didn't think it was going to stir up that much attention. Yeah, it was a rant video, and I guess people are, they tune in to see what someone's complaining about. But my intention was just to do a quick video on a Saturday to vent a little bit and be done with it. But I didn't think it was going to get as much attention as it did. So I appreciate, again, all the positive comments, and even the ones that may be a little bit critical to me. We all have our opinions and thoughts, and that's great. That's what makes this hobby so wonderful and overall enjoyable for me. So with that, that's all I have for you. So until next time, thanks for watching.